In this week's parsha, we meet a very interesting individual, Bilam. On one side, Bilam seems to be very in touch with his spirituality. He's a prophet. He speaks to God. He gets the word of God come through him. On the other side, he's a very wicked individual. He seems to be only looking out for himself and seems to be doing things that you wouldn't necessarily see within somebody who is so close to God. How could this be? What makes this question even more difficult is a very famous midrash. The midrash points out in a pasuk in the end of Sefer Dvarim, where it says that there's not going to be any prophet like Moshe within Am Yisrael. Lo kam ke Moshe. There's no one else that can be a Navi like Moshe within Am Yisrael. The midrash notices that the Torah said within Am Yisrael there can't be anybody like Moshe. However, within the nations there could be someone who's even greater than Moshe, and that's Bilam. How could that be? How could Bilam be even greater than Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest of all individuals. He's the one who received the Torah and passed it on for all generations. How can Bilam be compared to Moshe Rabbeinu? It seems to be that what the Midrash is telling us is that there's a certain power, there's a certain koach, a certain potential. Now this power, this potential for spirituality can be found in two individuals. One that's being used for evil and one that's being used for good. Connection to God, or a higher sense of spirituality, even prophecy, is a power. It's a potential that can be used. Moshe Rabbeinu decided to use it for good, while Bilam HaRasha decided to use it for evil. Now, the question then has to be, how can I become a person who makes sure that they use their own potential, use what God has given them, their spiritual potential, their abilities for good, and not have the downfall like Bilam and use it for evil? The Mishnah Masechet Avot comes to answer that question. And it says there are three qualities, three attitudes to life that Bilam had. And those three attitudes were, first and foremost, Ayin Ra. He was somebody who looked at everything from a negative point of view. The second thing was he was somebody who was very haughty, thought so much of himself. And the third thing was that he was never satisfied with whatever he had. He never felt a sense of gratitude, never felt a sense of satisfaction with what he has accomplished in his life. Those three things were what led to his downfall. Now, if you think about it, what makes a person feel that he's negative? What makes a person look at the world in such a negative way? When somebody feels like it's us versus them, when somebody feels disconnected from the world around them, then they see that they have to stand and kind of criticize, because it's me versus the world, it's me versus everybody else, and therefore it leads to a negative viewpoint, a critical viewpoint, as well as the only way that a person can deal with that is either by lowering their self-esteem or by being an individual who raises themselves to a point where they think that they're better than everyone else. They also can never be satisfied with whatever they accomplish. The other side is someone who has an ayin tova, someone who's positive. A positive individual sees themselves as part of the world, sees themselves interacting with everybody else. Relationships are the key to what that person wants to build in their life. Therefore, they view the world through a positive light because everything around them is seen as a part of their essence, a part of their life, a part of their story. And therefore, they want to build with that and create something more. When somebody has a relationship with God, even if it's at a very high spiritual level, but that relationship is built off the fact that it's me versus them, and the power that they use with that spirituality is only through how to criticize, as well as seeing themselves as versus the rest of the world, they turn into somebody who uses their ability not to blend with the world, not to work with the world around them, but rather to be against it. That's a negative individual that leads to haughtiness, that leads to never being satisfied, who leads to Bilam HaRasha. If we're able to turn that around and be able to look at the world from a positive perspective, as well as being able to see yourself as connected with everyone else around them, therefore you don't try and rise above people, rather you work with them. It doesn't lead to haughtiness, it leads to humility. And therefore you become a person who's also satisfied with whatever they can do to add to those around them, because they see themselves as part of a bigger picture. That is the key to being the difference between Bilam, Avram Avinu, who's the beginning of Am Yisrael, as well as leading to Moshe, who's somebody who's able to use his spirituality and use his potential, not for evil, but rather for the greatest mission that anybody has ever accomplished in this world. Shabbat Shalom.